Welcome to Giants Nation. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, the Football Grump, and we have our annual episode, the 2026 Way Too Early Free Agency Preview, which, believe it or not, is actually a pretty good episode. You always get somebody from that episode in that free agency. Last year was Chauncey Golson, somebody we identified off a very minimal snap. So it's a good episode. And I got Grump joining me to do this. We're actually recording this on Tuesday. It's going out on Friday. Giants, please don't put any news because we're gonna be in Charlotte, North Carolina for our live show tomorrow. When you're listening to this, it'll be tomorrow. So make sure to come out if you're in the area. I'm sure we'll talk about that again. Thanks to Body Armor. Grump, how are we doing?
Doing good. I actually just came back from Charlotte, so we're gonna miss each other. But that is going to be my new home. So every year going forward, if you keep going back to Charlotte, I'll be there. So there's that. But I'm excited about to talk about free agents and talk
What's
about
your new address going to be?
Sure. Yeah, 123. I'm really gonna tell you, Lane. I'm excited to talk about 2026 free agents, mainly because I anticipate, despite this being a good 2025 Giants roster, the schedule is so damn hard that the 2026 season may really be the year. And the Giants have $30 million in cap space next year, I think, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I should have looked that up beforehand, but I don't quite know at the moment. So again, not a ton. I feel like since year one with Joe Shane, it's like they got some good amount of cap space, but they don't have a ton to work with. And they've kind of capped themselves out every single year under Joe Shane. There's never been one year where they went in with like rollover cap space because they've used basically every cent of it every single year. First year they had to, because they didn't have any money. But we're going to get into this free agents preview first. This episode is brought to you by a special person, Joe Panzella, not pandemic Joe Panzella. Joe Panzella, where did he sign up to join the Giants Nation show?
He went to patreon.com/Giants Nation. And after he signed up, Bobby sent him a bunch of stickers in the mail, and he got to watch episodes like this live and before everybody else.
And a t-shirt contest where I got to put the one out for mail. You know what? I might actually put that out while I'm driving. That way I don't have to worry about the notifications and like looking at my phone. Like, okay, I've got, this however many emails from Patreon for the contest. So thank you, patreon.com/Giants Nation. Your support is very much appreciated. All right, so let's get into this 2026 free agency preview. Last year, we actually talked about Dak on this episode because I legit thought that it was a chance the Cowboys were going to let him walk. Like Jerry was talking like it was truly a playoff wins or bust year, and I felt like that was actually going to happen. And there was like no reason to wait to sign him, but they truly just did wait to sign him and then signed him right before the season kicked off. But the Giants won't be in the QB market at all. I mean, the Giants have a first-round QB and a backup in Jameis who is signed through next year. I did find it funny though when you look at the 2026 free agents and you sort it by their current average annual value. The top 4 paid QBs who will be free agents in 26 are Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, and Tyrod Taylor. So former Giants quarterbacks are going to be looking for that new payday. So Giants QBs, that's where the money's going to be. But when you think of 2026 free agency for the Giants, and like what position could they spend big on? It's a position they didn't spend on any in free agency. In the draft, they only spent the 5th round pick on it in Marcus Bowe. It's offensive line. And I think that's where the names in this class are as well. Jermaine Illuminor will be a free agent as well. You don't know if you're going to get a deal done with him. Greg Van Roten will, his contract will be expired on a 1-year deal. It'll be year 4 of JMS. So like you look at the big holes on the roster in 2026, it's basically like maybe tight end, we'll see, defensive tackle, and then right tackle, guard, and center. Like it's truly all on the offensive line. And last year's big fish in Trey Smith will be a free agent again if the Chiefs decide to not re-sign or get a franchise tag. And I think the Giants were actually in on him this past year until they tagged him. In fact, Joe Shane mentioned Smith in a presser about like some of the guys getting tagged and mentioned Trey Smith specifically pre-draft. We know they were in on Will Fries from the Colts. And so they were in on guard and they didn't get it. I could see Trey Smith being someone they throw a ton of money at because next year's free agency. Because again, looking at this free agency class, offensive line is a spot that makes the most sense for the Giants, and it's also, I think, where the most names are available in free agency.
I think it's possible, right? Trey Smith, I think, is the clear cream of the crop guy on the offensive line that's going to come up due. I just don't. I think he's going to command so much money that I think they'll be priced out. And it
Would
really,
they though if they just they get one big contract? I can see them doing it.
I could see them doing one big contract, but is getting a guard the one big contract that they're going to want? I mean, I still have concerns at other positions. Offensive line is by far, the most needy spot, but I think it's varied in where it's needed. Like, I'd say right guard. You could say also left guard, John Runyon. How much longer is he going to be? That'll be the last year of his contract. Center, what's happening with John Michael Schmitz? What's happening behind Andrew Thomas? I mean, so like, I do think while offensive line as a unit is the biggest need, and there is that glaring hole at right guard, for the most part, I feel like it's a numbers problem and a depth problem more than it's like we need like a superstar added kind of position. So I could just see the price tag going to a point where it's like, well, we have other things we have to fix too.
I get that, but I could just see them being in a spot being like, where do we not have like any future assets that we're proud of in? And that would be offense. Again, JMS, he'll be entering year 4. He's not that yet. Marcus Bowe, we don't know how much he's going to play. It's basically just Andrew Thomas. Like you said, Runyon will be in the last year. Greg Van Roten, Jermaine Illuminor are free agents. Again, I could see them spending big money and looking to add, someone as a secondary contract in there as well. But you know who the belle of the ball would be for me, and if out of all the players we're going to go through in this, and I know it's a little risky with his injury history. It's Elijah Vera Tucker from the Jets, who's played guard and tackle. I mean, I think he's an all-pro level player. He was fully healthy his rookie season. Then he tore his tricep in 2022. Then his Achilles in 2023, missing 22 games. Only missed 2 games last year with a sprained ankle, which was on the injury report for the majority of the year for him. But like, again, I like Trey Smith as a player, but if I'm just talking football player, no injury wise, Elijah Vera Tucker, I think actually clears Trey Smith by a wide margin on level of player. Like, I mean, Vera Tucker, you can play him at tackle and have a good tackle there too. There's a lot of good tackles, so I won't say like Pro Bowl level or whatever, but like you have a legitimately really good tackle if you put him out there. You can do everything with him. Like if you told me they're all healthy, like if you told me everyone from this free agent class is going to be healthy and when you sign them for the next 3 years, I'm giving like a blank check to Elijah Vera Tucker. Like you put him, either right guard, left guard, wherever you want. He's just going to be a stud for you long term.
Yeah, and I can see why. I mean, he's still only going to be 27 years old at that time, 6'5", 308 pounds. He immediately fills that right guard role, but you're not wrong. I mean, like he's got flexibility to tackle. He's got flexibility to left guard also. He is coming off the 5th-year option this year. He's on the 5th-year option, which because I think he's classified as a tackle, jacked him up to $15 million for this year, fully guaranteed. And I don't anticipate that would be like his AAV or anything like that. So I do think that he would probably
future AAV. I think he'll be. Look at the guards that got like Will Fry's got what? I mean, he got 20 mil, right?
Did he?
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, Will Fry's got 22 mil per year. Actually, no, I'm wrong. He has a 4-year deal, so it was 5 years, 80 million. So that's, dude, come on, Yahoo Sports, help me out here.
Man, I really put you in a bad spot just throwing numbers out.
But I mean, the Trey Smith, I think what the franchise tag was, so he got 5 years, 87 million. It's the average annual value of 17.5. I mean, he had injuries too. Elijah Vera Tucker's a much better player than Will Fries.
No, without question.
You look at the guys from the year before, Robert Hunt and what was the other one that the Panthers got? Like one of those guys got 20 mil. I can definitely see it at hitting that number for him.
Yeah,
if he stays healthy, obviously.
Yeah, this would be great. I mean, this would be a huge upgrade to the line, and the flexibility and his ability to play all over the place gives him that. I don't know. For me, what I was saying before about Trey Smith and like it being a numbers game on offensive line, this actually kind of works towards that while still being a big check
Yeah, and
player.
you can see the Jets letting him move because he's had that injury history. It's a new regime, right? They like to make tough. They're more comfortable making those tough decisions. And the reality is that they just invested back-to-back first-round picks in offensive tackle, and I can see them justifying letting a Vera Tucker walk again while they have to. They got to sign Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine. Like they've got guys to sign. I could see them justifying letting Elijah Vera Tucker go, but I could also see, them being like, no, we sign all our guys the same way Detroit did. Um, but here's why I like the O-line class is it has like the name power, but it also is deep, right? And there's other guys that you maybe want to take flyers on. Tyler Linderbaum isn't a real free agent. The Ravens declined the option, I think, to sign him eventually. But Luke Gadecki from the Bucks, I think they'll probably try and get something done with him. But he's been a pretty damn good right tackle for the Bucks. The Giants had real interest in him in 2022. And then two other tackles I would look at is the Colts. I feel like the Colts are more comfortable than most teams letting their guys walk. They have two tackles who are free agents, and Bernard Raymond, coming on his, looking for his first deal, and Braden Smith looking for another one. I can see them picking Bernard Raymond, the younger option. Smith has been a damn good right tackle for the Colts. And that feels like the Giants have went to the Colts well in free agency. Like I said, it feels like a team that is very comfortable letting guys walk. I mean,
Yeah,
Will Fries this year.
yeah, and tackle depth is something that scares me like no other, and I feel like I can't stop talking about it. Like Andrew Thomas's injury history, his missed time, the amount of time he's actually had to play through injury, it's a concern. It has to be a concern because I've watched too many seasons just get torpedoed by Andrew Thomas not being able to play. There has to be someone that's able to play when he is hurt. You know what I mean? Like I don't even mean like IR. I just mean like, forcing him to play through sprained ankles and stuff like that. It's just not good for his long-term career or the game that he's actually playing hurt.
Well,
So,
let me. Illuminor is a free agent, right? And I think Illuminor is somebody we'd love to get a extension done with. I don't know how realistic that'll be and how willing he is. I think him seeing James Hudson get like almost the same contract as him was like, all right, yeah, I definitely want to hit the open market next year.
mhm.
But like again, right now for the 2026 team, right tackle, which is a extremely important position, especially with a young player like Jackson Dart, someone who I think whose eyes go down when there's pressure. Getting that front side tackle taken care of is a huge deal to me. And I look at it whether it's Gadecki or Braden Smith. Those are two real deal right tackles in the NFL who would help out with that a lot. And then Bernard Raymond, I don't think the Colts are going to let him walk, and I don't think the Giants are going to take a guy who's a starting left tackle and move him to right tackle. Like Rashawn Slater is a free agent.
Yeah,
I
but
love Rashawn Slater. When the Eagles traded up for Devontae Smith, I was celebrating. I was like, all right, we get Rashawn Slater or Micah Parsons. Um, uh, but he's not moving to right tackle. So he's not going to sign with the Giants to play right tackle. And I could see the Chargers trying to get a deal done with him, obviously, as well. So I didn't want to sit here and go and talk about how much I love Rashawn Slater because I don't think he's super realistic. There's well, do you have any like other names from like a big money or at least pretty good money tier in the offensive line department? Because I have some like take some swing on guys who haven't who may not command the big money from the offensive line spot.
No, I have one low money guy. That I
Who is he? Who is he?
Brady Christensen, center for the Panthers, but also has left tackle flexibility. Only going to be 30 years old. This is somebody who is making like $3 million this year. But I mean, I'm looking at affordability and I'm looking at depth and I'm looking at holes on the offense, right? Like this is a huge year for John Michael Schmitz. And I kind of look at it as both ways, right? Like even if JMS has a good year this year, Brady Christensen can be the backup at center and be a tackle backup. It wouldn't be great, but it would still be something. It gives some level of flexibility. And I think that Joe Shane has been trying to, well, I mean, Joe Shane and Brian Dable. It's hard to tell who's pulling the strings on this with offensive line, but they love offensive line flexibility. They love it.
Right. Yeah, and he's someone who's like you said, been decent. Mine are some like, all right, let's revisit some draft classes. Let's start revisiting some draft classes. Kenyon Green. He's on the Eagles now. Again, he's part of the reason I wasn't a big fan of Tyler Booker out of Alabama this past year. We'll see how. Again, I have this thing where I can see the Eagles fixing him. Again, sometimes with guards it takes some time. Now, usually you look for that year for them to really pop off of being year 3, not year 4 or 5. But I could see that with Kenyon Green. Another one like Zion Johnson, another first round pick from that draft class in 2022, who was like, with even like I like Kenyon Green a lot. Again, I think he's my biggest miss ever in the draft. But you had Zion Johnson, who fit the more athletic profile of like what Pro Bowl and All Pro guards look like. And I even did a video on him as a rookie, and I thought he had put together some pretty good film. And he just hasn't put it together with the Chargers. They declined his option. I haven't watched a ton of recent film on Zion Johnson, but again, he's someone who fits the athletic profile who should work. Like again, you look at sometimes it takes guards a while, right? It's kind of why I've been a little more anti like first round guard, even though I wanted Donovan Jackson in the second round out of Ohio State. Unless they're really the only guards I like to take early, Grump, are now guys who I think are capable of playing tackle in a pinch. I think those are the guys who project better early on in their career. But again, both of those guys are guys you could take a swing on.
I would add even that we saw Zion Johnson at the Senior Bowl also practicing snaps. And I do think that while he wasn't great at it then, I thought even then that he really does have the center guard versatility as well.
Yeah, and that was out of necessity because they didn't have any centers at the Senior Bowl that year. And again, he's never played center before. Another guy, first round pick from that class, Cole Strange. He's been a bust for the Patriots. He missed almost all last year with a torn patellar tendon. He did play decently at center the last 2 games of the year, but I don't know if he's even going to be starting for them this year. I think out of the 3, that's the least guy that I like. I mean, we like Cole Strange a little bit, but we were like thinking of him as like a 3rd round pick, and he ended up going in the 1st round.
Right? That was a classic Belichick draft pick right there.
But another guy from that class who he's been better than all these guys that I really like, and it makes sense with the pairing. And this actually could be like, I could see this guy maybe being a trade in camp because the Raiders added Alex Kappa. They drafted a couple offensive linemen. Dylan Parham out of Memphis, who's been with the Raiders for the last 3 years. He was there with Carmen Brasilla when they drafted him. He's been starting all 3 years for the Raiders. I think he's been like more of a middle of the road player. With Carmen Brasilla there, he was 13th out of 82 guards in pass blocking efficiency in 2023, which measures your sacks, hits, and pressures allowed per snap. Now last year he was a lot lower in that, and it's not always the best stat indicator for guards. It can fluctuate year to year. But I was talking with Sanji, who covers the Raiders a little bit. He's like, yeah, he's like he's not as good as I was hoping he'd be, but like he's been a solid player for the Raiders. I can actually see him as being as a possible, like I said, a trade candidate for a guy who's been starting all 3 years, and if they're challenging him with a starting job, maybe the new regime gets rid of an old pick in Dylan Parham.
I loved Dylan Parham. We saw him at the Senior Bowl. I had actually done advanced research on Dylan Parham before we went down there, and I was like, whoa, this guy's not bad. And then I remember watching him. He was like one of the first guys I remember seeing that do that like jump set thing in his pass set. And
because he was a tackle,
right?
Who converted.
Yeah, exactly. And he looked the part immediately going over to the center. Like he fit right in at center. He had his bad reps like everybody else, but for switching positions, he looked like he had been playing it for quite a while. So I could absolutely see Dylan Parham. I don't know about a trade though. If he's a free agent in 2025, you think he's going to be traded this year, like by August?
Yeah, I could see maybe him being like a camp trade for a team that brought in some of their own. You know how it works with new regime. We brought in our own guy. We signed Alex Kappa. We drafted Caleb Rogers in the third round. We want to play our guys. And you could see a guy who probably might be their best, best option to start, but they want to make their decisions. Like that happens all the time with new regimes. And I could see Dylan Parham falling in that, and I could see the team. I could see the O-line coach that was part of drafting him being the guy that wants him. It maybe doesn't make sense for the Giants because they have Runyon, Van Roten. We'll see with Bo. But so we'll see with that. Now, again, another guy that might get a big contract is Zach Tom. Talk about a hit from that class. Somebody I really liked went in the late fourth round. I said it. I said who did I say like reminded me of the slide this year in the draft? It was Marcus Bo, where it's like you don't really know what position. There's talks about him at tackle, guard, center. Maybe his best position is tackle. He's been really good for the Packers. I know we're spending so much time on the O-line, but that could be again another guy you could throw a decent bag at the Packers. Maybe they let him go. I don't know. I think the Packers are going to re-sign him. That's why I saved him for the end of this. But Zach Tom was somebody I want to talk about just because basically I just wanted to be like, hey, I was right about Zach Tom.
I didn't write him down because I didn't think it was possible that the Packers were really going to walk away from him. So,
you know what is possible to do? It's to go to a game this year or some type of event. Like, for example, the Charlotte race this weekend, all 3 races. I'm excited for that. But you can't just walk in those things. You can't just walk into a Giants game unless you know Jim and Jim knows you. And I'm excited to see whether it's the Giants, the race this weekend. I'm excited to go see those. And guess how? SeatGeek. Again, which is why I want to give the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. And you've heard us talk about them before on the old show, and they're like, hey, let's get back together, right? Let's not let the breakup be with everybody. Maybe you could stay with SeatGeek for a while, because we're friends, and that's what we are with SeatGeek. We're just good old friends. Again, there's more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. The NFL schedule just came out, so you got to be looking out for your tickets. Again, I'm going to the Giants-Commanders game in December. Check it out, right? It just came out. Football's around the corner. MLB is back. I saw the Orlando baseball team. Orlando's, making a pitch for a baseball team. I really want that to happen, and I'm going to become a super fan if that happens. I'm going to have to use a lot of SeatGeek to do that, but I'm willing to do it. So I just looked at SeatGeek, because talking about it, and NBA YoungBoy is going to be at the Kia Center. Wow, how about that? What's a trending sporting event here? Oh gosh, Eagles at Bucks is one of the more trending tickets around Florida. Not good. Bucks, buy your tickets. So again, SeatGeek, it has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good. Red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. We love it. You put the guarantee on the box. And I came through for you guys. You can use code Bobby for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code Bobby. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek. You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. And that Tommy Boy reference is outstanding.
The guarantee is on the box. But it's not on the box. Do you have any more offensive linemen you want to talk about?
I do not. I have a ton of other offensive players.
We spent 20 minutes on the O-line. Yeah, so you talk about some wide receivers you got. Wide receivers kind of a weird spot for the Giants where they have Neighbors. They have Slayton signed for, 26 and 27. Wan'Dale Robinson hasn't been resigned, so maybe Slot is an option. I feel like Joe Shane would want to get a deal done with Wan'Dale Robinson since his 2022 class is so bad that he'd like to get somebody signed out of it. But I can also see Wan'Dale not wanting to sign. I don't know what's going to happen with Wan'Dale, but what do you have for wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is that, right? Wan'Dale Robinson might be the most underrated player on this team, and he might not be. I know why a lot of people don't like him. He catches a lot of balls within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. But I also see a guy surrounded by 7 dudes bounce off of 6 of them and then get tackled while, scraping for every last yard. And if he could only catch a ball or be in an offense where he's not surrounded by half a defense, I actually think he could be really good. But regardless, he may not be here. So I kind of looked at a bunch of things. I think that moving on from Jalen Hyatt is a reality. Wan'Dale Robinson not being here is a reality. Amir Smith-Marset not being here, also a reality. So all of those things fell under the general wide receiver blanket. So starting with the returner slash wide receiver spot, slot wide receiver spot, and two guys that kind of popped up there. Rashid Shaheed, 29 years old by then, 5'11", 185 pounds, returner, slot wide receiver who can also stretch the field deep. He is coming off of a knee injury as well, only making about $5 million this year. Not really a ton to invest in. And then kind of covers a little bit of slot, a little bit of punt returner. Definitely somebody that I think pops up. And then the other one is somebody that I think I like more than most other people. But again, I don't think that this is going to be costing a ton of money. Calvin Austin, Pittsburgh Steelers, going to only be 27 years old. This is a 5'9", 160-pound guy. It's why nobody likes him, and I totally get it.
He gives you more down the field threat than a Wan'Dale Robinson does.
100%. And he is also a good returner as well. I think he's a very crisp route runner, and I also think that he plays bigger than 5'9". He doesn't play big or anything like that, but he has some ups. The same way that Tank Dell has some ups. He doesn't bounce back. Well, then there's Tank Dell, right? But I think that he's a really, really sharp route runner with good quickness in and out of his breaks, and that can be enough in the right offense. And in a successful Brian Daboll offense, that's more than enough. He's only making $1.2 million in 2025. Who knows what Pittsburgh is doing with wide receivers, or anything right now, as we're talking about this.
Yeah. So again, he missed all of his rookie season. As a fourth, he was a beast at the Senior Bowl. I think you were there for that Senior Bowl. He was a beast down there. He is again, I think he can get crisper in the quick game, but he was with a quarterback who doesn't run quick game well, but he actually creates explosives at that size, right? Where Wan'Dale is not creating explosives for you, or at least not down the field. He can maybe take have some more yak usage in an offense that gives him more space, like you were referencing at the beginning. But something that, has been talked about, like, oh, with Wan'Dale with a better QB, he's going to be so much better off. It's like, I don't know. I think his numbers can go down wildly because, one, he's with a quarterback who doesn't work good quick game and Russell Wilson, but also he does not give you value 10-plus yards down the field. Where his value with the better QB comes from is that QB's challenging down the field more, so there's more space for Wan'Dale. But so I actually think, like you said, he may be one of the more underrated players by the fan base, but I also think he might be overrated by the regime that's in the building. So I have tried to figure out what a Wan'Dale contract would look like. It's basically impossible. I thought Khalil Shakir would set like a good bar of like something close to there or decently off, and Shakir got like 13 mil per year. I'm like, oh gosh, that really throws a wrench in all of this. So I kind of looked at guys who are replaceable in that role. Jahan Dotson, I know he hasn't lived up to the first round pick. He was never really a first round pick in the first place, but like he's someone who is cheap, who has that outside flex that Daboll likes. He can get you 500 yards out the slot. I'm not talking about as like these big upgrades. Elijah Moore, I never really liked Elijah Moore. He's been force fed by the Browns the last 2 years. We'll see what he does for the Bills. His role there doesn't really make much sense unless he's truly just a backup. What do you think about Christian Watson? He'll be 27 years old. He's missed, games every year, 3, 8, and 2. The stat profile is pretty damn similar to Slayton early on. Could you see them like trying to invest in somebody that's a Slayton replacement, even with Slayton on the team for another year, who's not like this clear upgrade in Christian Watson? It gives you like size and explosives.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think so, and I even think that in the immediate, they would view, like I said, like Jalen Hyatt not being part of this team, even though he was part of the plan, 2 years ago. They absolutely could just use him in a rotational role right away, even if it's eventually going to be like a Darius Slayton replacement.
Yeah.
I just don't think that Christian Watson is leaving. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they drafted Matthew Golden. They like Jaden Reed better, and I think rightfully so. Then you have Romeo Dobbs and Dontavian Wicks. I don't. I've talked. I like Watson coming out of NDSU. There's worries about his overall route running and drops and stuff, and that has definitely shown up in the NFL.
For sure.
He was actually taken with the pick the Giants traded away, or traded down from, in that second round trade down when they ended up drafting Wandale. So it doesn't really make sense for the Giants because they re-signed Darius Slayton, and he's not. Hell, he may not even be an upgrade at all, and so it's not this clear upgrade. But I thought I'd throw his name out there. You know, a guy who I'm so super interested to see what his year looks like, and so I kind of like these 2026 free agency or these early free agency previews, because it's basically just a way to revisit our draft analysis from 3 years ago. It's basically what it is every single year, and then then usually it's like, all right, it's our draft analysis from 3 years ago, and it's like, all right, which guys were busts from 4 years ago who didn't have their a fifth-year option pickup or whatever. Alec Pierce, who I'm gonna say call a hit. He had 824 yards last year on 37 catches. That's kind of insane. 22 yards per catch on an, like, there's guys who will get like 18 to 22 yards per catch and they have like 400 yards, and it gets the fan base excited, but he's never like a full-time player. He did that on an 824-yard season. That's pretty damn good. And his QBs, since he's been with the Colts, have been washed up Matt Ryan, who could not challenge down the field at all, Sam Ellinger, Nick Foles, Anthony Richardson, and Joe Flacco. Now, I actually think he's upgrading at quarterback this year with Daniel Jones. But at the same time, Daniel Jones is a terrible match for Alec Pierce's skill set, which is down the field creating explosives. Now I think we'll see how much can he get better. How good is he at the first and second level stuff with Daniel Jones? We'll figure out, because he's going to be asked to do that more. But I can see his numbers dipping, and I would kind of love to bring in Alec Pierce, depending on what his contract is like this, like wide receiver 4-3 guy who made. I don't know what it'd be, but I just kind of wanted to talk about Alec Pierce. I mean, he's been better than Wandale. Like, I think sometimes when the Wandale pick gets criticized, like, all right, look back at that second round, who would you take over him? Alec Pierce is somebody that I would say clear cut I would have taken over Wandale Robinson there.
Oh, absolutely. Alec Pierce tore it up at the Senior Bowl too.
Yeah, I mean, I thought his film was really good at Cincinnati. I mean, he's one of the reasons I didn't like Desmond Ridder. I was like, this guy, Desmond Ridder, took like 500 yards off the field for him at Cincinnati. And again, he's like been exclusively with bad quarterbacks. And you look at Jackson Dart, who's a quarterback who's aggressive, throws the ball deep 22% of the time. Pierce could be that fit, and you figure out what you're going to do with Slayton. Maybe even look at, I don't know, but Alec Pierce is somebody that I really like, and I think his skill sets are not going to be maximized this year with Daniel Jones. No matter what your thoughts are on DJ, he's not maximizing Alec Pierce's skill set. We can finish off on offense quick. Running back's not going to be something they invest in. I'll always bring up Travis Homer as RB3. I took him in the 2019 mock draft. Ty Chandler, he might move to RB3 in Minnesota now that they traded for Jordan Mason. He did all right with some spot starts at the end of 2023. You were a big Dameon Pierce guy. What happened to Pierce? Because it's like, this rookie, he's making waves in camp, and then he had a good rookie season that died out a little bit. Didn't play much in year two. Singletary became the starting back, and then last year didn't play at all. And then the last game of the season, when they rested their players, he had 19 carries for 176 yards. What the hell has happened with Dameon Pierce?
Isn't it just a coaching change?
Yeah, but it's a running back. We're not talking about like this guy doesn't fit the scheme. He's a running back.
I mean, I don't know, because one of the things I really liked about Dameon Pierce coming out of school is I didn't feel like he was run into the ground at school. Like, it felt like the sky was the limit for him. Like, what you saw on tape is what he could do, but he hasn't really been the main bell cow. So I have no idea why. It's not, there's nothing obvious. I don't think there's anything on film that's just like, oh God, sit this guy. They need to figure out running back. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I also don't think that he's like, this electric running back that's like game changing, you build an offense around or anything like that. So I just assumed it was, coach comes in, he's got his own specific kind of thing. I don't know. I certainly don't think it's anything attitude related. I don't believe I've heard anything like that. Yeah, I'm a big Damian Pierce guy. I think that that's somebody who is untapped talent.
Hell yeah. Tight end. My favorite guy from this would be Jake Ferguson. We've seen the Giants invest like every year in tight end except for this year, even though they took Fedoni with the 7th round pick. Um, Maybe that's the guy. Yeah, I'm not seeing this as being the position the Giants are going to invest in, but at the same time, like he was in trade talks and the Giants had interest in him. Or sorry, Dallas Goddard. Funny story. Sucker punched him, South Dakota. Well, he'll be 31 years old, but he was like in trade talks, and the Giants supposedly had some interest in him. Ferguson's the best of the class, considering age and everything. There's Kelsey and Mark Andrews, but like for the Giants, I think he's best in class. I mean, I loved him coming out of Wisconsin. He's a good blocker, 1,200 yards the last 2 years. The Cowboys only have $5 million in cap space next year with Micah Parsons not even signed, so he could be there. And then again, I'm not viewing this as like, oh, Giants are going to upgrade a tight end, but I do look at someone like Charlie Kohler, who was drafted, right before Isaiah Likely, and they had Mark Andrews, who's been tight end 3 on the Ravens. As somebody who like has played a little bit and looked good in little spots for the Ravens. I know he's like a Ravens fan favorite. He was someone I liked out of that class quite a bit coming out of Iowa State. So maybe that's like an underrated the guy. And guess who else is a free agent in Grump? Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. I went with one of my favorites from that draft class, and that was Chigo Okonkwo from Maryland. He'll only be 27. He's still kind of like I don't know. I don't know if you want to call him a project where he's just like, he's not going to be a finished product, but I don't think that he's going to cost a whole bunch. He did make his performance escalator. But I think that, while his route running is not super sharp and his blocking technique can be smoothed out a little bit. He does have smooth hands. He's super athletic. He's hard to bring down.
Yeah.
I just think that he's a nice complement, tight end / H-back. He's been seen doing like, short yardage kind of runs and stuff
Even
like that.
speed, yeah, speed. Like again, he's like this fun player. I think the Titans overdraft. Actually, a 4th round was fine. It was late 4th round too.
But
It's just
Titans didn't use him very well, and they had shitty quarterback play. So
yeah, and it's finding a role for him where it's like he's not just going to be your starting tight end. Like he's got to be like a complement to another player who you use, like you said, in the H-back role. He's so athletic and can really move. He's just I remember a year or two for him, fantasy guys were all over him. And I was like, I just don't know if he's ever going to be a great fantasy option, even though he's someone I'd love on my team. But yeah, he's someone you can do a million different things with, as long as your expectations aren't too high. I would love to get him. He was someone we talked a lot about in that draft process. Let's move to the defensive side. I think we're going to spend less time on this side. What position you want to hit first? Defensive tackle?
you can. I really didn't see a ton of defensive linemen that caught my eye as realistic. But yeah, jump into defensive line.
You know what caught my eye?
Body.
Body armor. Get your brand new limited edition Body Armor Chill today. Body Armor Chill is the impossibly cold sports drink with a new cooling sensation. So you hurry to your local retailer and load up on Chill while supplies last. Grump, they are. I have this bottle of Body Armor Chill. I had it before the public, no big deal. I even told my dad, I was like, I got this type of body armor. It's not even available to the public yet. They have a Body Armor Chill NASCAR at Charlotte. This is kind of how the whole thing came together. So they're the reason they're sponsoring the Charlotte, the live show of Charlotte. So come out, have a body armor. We're gonna have a cooler for body armor there. So if you want to come on the show, there's one thing you have to do. You got to have some Body Armor Chill. It really does cool your bones, and it's getting hot as shit in Florida lately. So I've been drinking a lot of Body Armor Chill. So you'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did, and I can't wait too.
Body Armor Chill. We're gonna be chilling. Zach Allen would be the belle of the ball. He's 29 years old, but that's just not going to happen. I mean, last year he had 14 sacks, 29 quarterback hits, and 38 pressures. The only defensive tackle who was more productive than him was Chris Jones last year. I I don't think he's going to put up that same production. It's basically damn near impossible unless you are like a Chris Jones, Aaron Donald type to do that 2 years in a row. Um, but I just don't. Defensive tackle is the spot I would love to spend money on. I just don't see the guy that they're going to spend a lot of money on. Again, Zach Allen would be the only one, but then you'd be giving him a top dollar contract, and he's probably not even going to hit free agency. And then you are talking about like resource allocation, where it's like, all right, Dex you have to get re-signed eventually. You have Brian Burns, Kayvon. You're gonna have to make a decision on him, Abdul Carter. Like I just see Zach Allen being out of the Giants' pay scale if they're gonna go spend money on defensive tackle. And unfortunately, there's no really middle ground at the defensive tackle spot. Again, I was hoping to go into this and find the defensive like 4 or 5 defensive tackles I want. I just couldn't really. Like DJ Reader is like the second best guy, but he's a nose tackle only, so that's not a fit with the Giants. Really, the only guy that I could find as like, oh, he'd be a fun one is Travis Jones from the Ravens. It was their third rounder out of UConn in 2022. He's been a solid two-way player as like the fourth guy on the Ravens front the last couple of years. He's a middle of the pack pass rusher and run defense. He's been pretty damn good. He was 21st of 80 defensive tackles and run stop rate. The year before, on much lesser amount of snaps, he was 8th out of 146. So again, he's someone who gives you that two-way and has been a good run defender. Another Senior Bowl guy that we watched out of UConn who was able to win quickly. Travis Jones is somebody who I can also see Travis Jones taking another step forward in year 4 and making himself some money. But really, I just didn't find the defensive tackles that I wanted, I guess, except for Travis Jones.
Yeah, and I can see Travis Jones as being a legitimate thing. That actually fits, and money wise, it makes sense. I just think as a defensive tackle spot, this is a spot that Joe Shane would like to draft and not spend money on. Like if he's going to spend money, he'd rather do something like retain a Dexter Lawrence rather than go out and buy the big number, because it's an expensive position to fill in free agency. At the big ticket spot, it's really expensive. So I just don't think from a philosophy standpoint that there's, that sort of possibility is going for the big ticket guy. But Travis Jones will probably fit that mold in terms of price and what they're looking for at defensive tackle. What's interesting is 2 other guys that we saw at the Senior Bowl from that class, and Fidarian Mathis and John Ridgeway, have been bad. And we would not sign them.
Well, Ridgeway was like, he bounces around from team to team. I actually think he'd be good as like a depth spot. Those are actually both Justin guys. And Fidarian Mathis, my only like exposure to him in the NFL, because the Commanders, he's just never gotten any playing time. And I know I just spare me the like everyone does good against JMS. But like I think one of JMS's 2 worst games as a rookie, one was Fidarius Mathis just working him. But it just never worked out in Washington, and they draft Johnny Newton. So there was at least something there with Fidarian. I wasn't super high on him, but I thought that, I don't know, I thought he'd be a little better than what he was. I think they took him in the second round. I thought he was more like a late 3rd, 4th round pick.
Yeah, but they've disappointed based on what our expectations were.
Yeah. Edge. We're not going to really talk about edge because the Giants have a few of them, if you haven't heard. But I know that I've said every year I'm going to say K'Lavon Chasen on a 1-year minimum deal. I will say congrats to K'Lavon Chasen. He had 5 sacks last year for Patrick Graham and 7 tackles for a loss. He actually only had 5 sacks in his first 4 years in the NFL, so he matched that. But he upgraded from the 1-year minimum contracts because you're a first rounder pick class. He got a 1-year $3 million deal from the New England Patriots. So I'm sorry for disrespecting you, K'Lavon Chasen, but maybe you go back to the 1-year minimum contract deal next year as the Giants' 4th edge rusher. I would welcome you, and then I would share the breakdown of Andrew Thomas versus K'Lavon Chasen again.
Leonard Floyd can't keep getting $10 million contracts, right? Like at a certain point, Leonard Floyd has to get a cheaper contract, and if that happens in 2026, I'll throw his name in the mix.
Yeah, he's got to come home. Just come on home, Leonard Floyd. You've been rumored to come to us like 3 different times. Just come home. I even like in 2020 or 2021, I clipped up all of Leonard Floyd's sacks because I thought they were going to sign him, and they didn't. Linebacker. So at first I was like, where's this guy? And let's talk about him. First of all, for the Giants linebacker room, Bobby Okereke, if they cut him, they could save $9 million. It'll be his last year on his deal. McFadden is a free agent as of now. Leo Chanel. I'm putting Leo Chanel in the thumbnail for this episode. I love Leo Chanel. I usually, because the draft is like, we haven't watched as many guys as the actual NFL teams have. I'm never one to just go back and be like, oh, I can't believe you didn't take this guy I wanted in the third round, right? I'm just not that type of person, Grump. I will do with Leo Chanel. You fucking idiots. Why did we not take Leo Chanel with one of those third round picks? Why not? He's been a stud for the Chiefs, and they've had good linebackers. They let Willie Gay walk. They have Drew Jankel and Nick Bolton. Leo Chanel is a certified dude, dude. He brings the pop. He gives you some pass rush productivity. Like Leo Chanel, not taking Leo Chanel with one of our third round picks is a disgrace. Just because he moves a little weird in coverage. The dude can stop the run. And we just let him go to the Chiefs for a third round comp pick while we took Josh Azidu and Cordell Flott. Leo Chanel should be a New York Giant, considering who the Giants linebackers were that year as well, too.
He's only going to be like 25, 26 years old. 6'3", 250 pounds. I think he's all around like a really steady off-ball linebacker. I think that he's still good in coverage.
He's very smart in coverage. He's just not like the most fluid mover. How many times do we have to watch linebackers who are super athletic not figure it out until we just start taking the guys who are actually good at playing linebacker? Like Leo Chanel's coverage was like so much better than guys who were more athletic than him, in my opinion. It's just he didn't move the same way that those guys did. I love Leo Chanel. I don't think there's a guy I could celebrate more. Even Elijah Vera Tucker, who I would celebrate more the Giants drafting or signing in free agency next year.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one guy I could see the Giants putting, a bunch of cash, a contract, and a pen into a bazooka and shooting at a person, it's Leo Chanel, more than Elijah Vera Tucker. I don't know, man. I mean, he's not even making. He's going to hit a big contract, right? I mean, that's just like a given.
No, I mean he's not even like the Chiefs rotate their line because they have Drew Tranquil and Nick Bolton. So he doesn't even play like 100% of the snaps for the Chiefs.
Yeah, but don't you think? I mean, I always feel like some contracts have some sort of benefit if your team is just really good all the time. Like it just kind of jacks up your value a little bit because you're part of a really good defense in general. Like it's such a team sport. I think I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm willing to spend money more than what the market value is for him again.
Oh, me too. And if there's two positions, I think that NFL teams like always seem to have like rose-colored glasses on athleticism. It's tight end and linebacker, and like you see it every single year. They swing and miss on athletic tight ends that have no production in college, and they're like, oh, they're gonna stretch the field and do all this stuff if we could just make them a good tight end. Or and the same thing with linebacker. This guy actually does it all.
Yeah, I'm a Leo again. Put him in the friggin' thumbnail because I want Leo Chanel on this team. So again, you rarely hear us bitching and moaning. I'll say I can't believe they didn't take Fred Warner or whatever. I can't believe they didn't take Leo Chanel. And you know what? From that class too, I can't believe they didn't take Zach Tom in the 4th round either. I actually think 2022 might have been one of our best years for like, how they say, like, would you have done a better job? I won't ever use this year's last class because it was the least amount of players I watched, which I was kind of worried a little bit, Grump, because I was like, yeah, the Giants took some of the players I wanted every pick, but it's like I kind of watched their top 30 visits and then, not as many other guys, so it limited the amount of people I could want. But 2022, we did a shit ton of work. I think we we feel like we did a pretty damn good job. All the other good linebackers are old that are free agents. Levante David, Demario Davis, Bobby Wagner. The only other name I could come up with is Malcolm Rodriguez, who was a late pick for the Lions, who's played decently when called upon, but he's just never been the full-time starter since his first year. But he was a late round guy. I think he's like 5'9", 5'10", but he just knows how to play linebacker.
Oklahoma State guy, right?
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of his for like a day 3 pick that I thought really could blossom. I was like, at the worst he'll ever be is a really good special teams player.
Yeah, we talked about him on our linebacker draft preview that year. Like that's how much we liked him as a day 3 pick. And there was no top 30 for the Giants for like that's why we did it. Corner, not going to spend. I don't even know how long we've been going, but I feel like we're pushing the time limits. I don't see them spending a lot of money at corner. Like even the corners I kind of like are nickel, and I don't see them looking to replace Drew Phillips. Like Roger McCreary in the nickel, if it didn't work out with Drew, like I came away respecting his game a lot, watching Bowen, Shane Bowen Titans film. Lante Taylor is one of those guys where it's like, man, he gets tackles for a loss and a ton of pass breakups, but he also gives up a ton of yards. And then like Cam Taylor-Britt, again, a lot, basically 3 guys that have given up a ton of yards over the last couple of years. I always bring up James Pierre for the Steelers, UDFA out of FAU. I took him in the 2020 mock draft for the 7th round pick, but I don't really have anything on corner.
I'll throw Kyer Elam into the mix. 25-year-old, 6'1", 190 pounds, comes from Football Legacy. I think that he is strictly an outside corner, so he's insurance for a bank's drop off. And if that doesn't happen, I mean, having a strong 3-corner rotation is super important. 2023, he spent the whole time on IR. He does have a lengthy injury history. I don't think he's ever played a full season, but I also think at corner and wide receiver, that happens all the time. It's pretty rare to find guys that play, 17 games a year. The Bills did not pick up his option. They traded him away with a 6th for a 5th in return for the Cowboys, but I don't think that he's horrible. I just think that for a 1st-round pick, he didn't meet expectations. They were ready to move on. They found a suitor with the Cowboys. I like Kyer Elam better than Alante Taylor. I actually wrote Alante Taylor first, and then I crossed him up. He's just not good in coverage.
Yeah, I kind of didn't. You know who I realized too? I kind of hated the Bills' 1st-round picks over the last few years. Like I kind of hated Maxwell Harrison's 1st-round pick. I hated Kyer Elam as a 1st-round pick.
In general,
I like, but at 1st round was a little rich for him.
I don't really agree with the Bills' draft philosophy most of the time. So,
well, that's great for us. Safety. Just give me a name. Give me a name.
Jason Pinnock.
Give me another name.
I don't know, man. I didn't have anything for safety. There's really nobody there.
Dude, all right, so this is a little warning for you for the 2027 free agency preview a year from now. You just got to have one name at every position, even if it's your 3rd stringer. So my name is Nick Cross from the Colts, who's played a lot for them. He stinks, but he's super athletic. And we were writing him up. I was like, he is probably the worst instincts and coverage responsibilities I've ever seen, but he's extremely athletic. Well, who drafted him? The Colts, obviously, as they do. In fact, he's the reason they didn't make the playoffs 2 years ago, right? Where they were in cover 4 and they just threw like a post right over the safety. I was like, what the fuck is that safety doing? And then I saw the dots on Next Gen because they don't, and I was like, it's like, oh, it's number 20 for the Colts. That makes sense. It's Nick Cross. He never knows what he's doing. I also just put DeMar Hamlin because that's a name. Should we put DeMar Hamlin on the thumbnail?
You could put Reed Blankenship on there. Is that silly?
I think that's a 2025 free agency preview. Maybe we add him to the list. I'm afraid that Graham Gano is the thing that Giants fans are all in agreement. Like this is really weird, like plan going into the year, and it comes true. Kind of like the Josh Azudu swing tackle thing, where it's like all offseason we're like, yeah, this is probably dumb, right? And then it ends up biting you. We haven't really done special teams too much on these previews.
No, and I don't know that you really need to do that. I think that you can get a serviceable kicker, punter, long snapper in a pinch, and I don't think it's really something that you have to like super plan for, like be the first bidder for this guy or that guy. I think it's, I don't know. I think you kind of get your young talent and your prospects and you keep what you keep. And then if you're really, really down bad and the rest of your team is fine, then you throw money at the position. But I think you worry about the rest of your team before you worry about throwing money at special teams.
Right. All right. That's an episode. Let us know who you guys want in 2026 free agency if you are crazy like us. I think we spent almost 30 minutes just on offensive line, which is a beautiful thing for the 2026 free agency preview. But Leo Chanel was the guy I was most excited to talk about. So excited about that. I'm excited to hear your guys' takes on this. So 2022 draft, we did a pretty good job. I'm excited to see how we did on the 2023 draft on next year's preview. I'm already looking forward to it. So Grump, thank you for joining. Again, come out to Charlotte if you're in the area. If not, you're gonna have FOMO. If you're not in the area, just show up. We'll see you there. I think we're gonna do the show at 1:00. I'll get concrete details out on social media by then. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.